Girls, can you hear me? Yes, okay. We were there. I was okay, okay, guys. Okay, I told you the zone of finishing and polishing. This is zone one, the internal surfaces, internal margins. We can call it is the margins only. Zone one, zone two is the internal surface. Zone three is the cutting of the sprue. Then zone four is your proximal. After you cut your sprue, then you have the occlusal surface, and then you have axial wall, that is buccal and lingual, and in the end you have to go for the external margins outside. Okay. For the internal margins, 1 mm band of the metal should be closely adapted to the tooth surface. I told you before also that it should be very much closely adapted. And how can you make it? When you are doing your wax pattern, you have to reflow it off at the end, so the good adaptation will be there. And defect and even small nodule within this zone reduce the restoration durability, and even it is not going inside if there is only a small nodule. So you have to remove this nodule in the internal margins. Once the internal margin has been done, then you are able to seat it properly into your preparation. Zone 2 is your intaglio surface, or you can call it as an internal surface. No contact should be present between the die and the intaglio surface of your casting. Why there is no surface, no contact? Because we have to give it a 25 to 35 micron space for the luting agent. So any nodule or contact must be identified and removed by the selective grinding. You can see here if there is anything, you can remove it. And you can see this, if it is a small nodule in the internal surface, there will be the open margin. It will not allow to seat it properly. And you should, and one thing that is important, you cannot remove till the will go inside. No, you don't. You just have to make till the level of your margin. You cannot over reduce all these things. What is this? I will tell you. How can you identify these things? There are some marking agents which you have to use in the internal surface. You have to paint it there. That it may be water soluble dyes, you can have solvent based dyes, you can have powder sprays, or you can have a rouge, or maybe some elastomeric detection paste or a fit checking material. They are all are available in our clinics also. You just have to paint it inside, and then you have to seat it on the, either if you are doing it because this is finishing, you are doing it on the die, so you have to put it again on the die. And you should be very careful that you should not have to press the die, because if you press the die will abrade and it will fit here. But when you are doing in the patient mouth, the tooth will be hard and it will not abrade there, and your casting will not be fitted there. So you can use it here, and gently you have to place it again on the die and check your high point. Whatever the high point you can see here, in this position it is, you can see here, the detection paste will be removed from that area, so it will be visible or evident. You can see here also it is evident. Then you have to remove these high points. After that, you have to cut the sprue. That is very important, because before that there's a thick, all the thick investment material you are removing. So you have to hold the this small crown. After, once you have done all this internal surface and all this, then you have to cut the sprue here. Sprue is detached to re-establish proper coronal structure and function, and you have to use this carborundum separating this to cut the sprue. And after that, once you have cut, you have to use this refined stone or sandpaper disc to refine all this contact point. Once you have removed the sprue, you can see here, once you remove the sprue, now this contour is re-established there. Then you have to check the proximal contacts. Proximal areas are adjusted, and why you are adjusted? Either if it is already over reduced, there is no contact point with the adjacent tooth, there's a all the adjacent teeth will come into the space, so it will be difficult for us. So you, if it is over reduced, you have to build it up again with the help of the solder. I told you before also, you have to use the shoulder, this solder material. And if there's very tight contact, you can, how can you know there's a contact point? Because you have to use this mylar articulating paper. You have to put it in between your adjacent tooth and this tooth, and you will get this mark. If you get this mark, that means there is a very tight contact, and then you have to remove this small contact so that it will fit easily without any over contacts or tight contacts there. and after that you have to remove these connectors. You have to done all this polishing either with the rubber wheels and then with the twine, that is this one that have to be impregnated with the polishing compound. You have to pass it out and it will be finished. After you have done this proximal contact, now you can see you have done your zone 1, that is internal margins, then you have go all the internal surface, then you have done the proximal surface. Then when you have done these three surface, then your this casting will seat easily on your die, and now it has to go, if it is properly made, it has to go onto your finish line. Even the tight contact will not allow you your thing to go inside the proper area, and after, only after it has been seated, you are able to remove the these high points, because once it is not fully seated, it is always you can see high points there. So all the things or the zones you have done, in the end you have to go for the occlusal surface. Occlusal contact should be reestablished in both the static and dynamic relationship with the opposing arch. I don't know whether you have done it in your this clinical RPD or not, but occlusal surface you have to know that you have to put the articulating paper and you have to adjust it. When you are doing it in the cast or die, you have the opposing cast which should be articulated and you have to check it on the die with the opposing arch. Then it should not be very much finished. Ideally, we have to take the satin finish surface, which is to be required, because if this is satin finish, when you ask the patient in the patient mouth, when you're doing the try, you ask the patient to close the mouth, and there will be the shining surface, so you will able to know that area is a high point. So till now in this restoration, before you doing in the patient's mouth, you have to do the satin finish surface. Functional stability must be ensured. If there's proper occlusion, and one of the thing that is very important, you don't have to remove all these contact points. If you remove all the contact point, they will be the open bite. You have to remove only the high point which has the big point there, and a small area which is not there, means there is some bubble there. So you will have to remove only those of the high points. You can see here, you can use this diamond burr or a carbide burr. You can use it matte satin finishing or polishing. You can done with the rouge, then soft brush wheel, then airborne particles abrasion with the aluminum particle. And this is your, you can call it a gauge. This is called as Evanson. And when you are adjusting the high point, always you have to use this gauge. And this is, you see, open end. One of the end will go on the intaglio surface, another surface should be on the upper side, and wherever you are taking the high point, you have to calculate this thickness. It should not be 1 mm. I don't, this is because of the metal structure, so this is giving you the 1 mm of the, it should not be less than thickness for the structure durability. If it is less than 1, you cannot adjust that area. Then you have to go for the axial walls. Axial walls should be smoothly contoured and polished for the optimum plaque control. We have a range of these things, materials. You have the carborundum disc and stones, you have garnet papers and paper disc, you have rubber points, and these all stones, different stones with different color, different thickness, and you can use accordingly. These are the wheels and carbon parts, you can use it accordingly. After this, you have to go for the external margins and margin finishing. All the external margins, especially this area, it is very important. Why it is important? Because it has to be go for the restoration longevity. And why this longevity is important? Because if it is not finished, the plaque will be accumulating these margins, and soon they will be the periodontal problem. So it has to be very much important for the longevity of your restoration. Polished metal surface without ledges, without steps should be there. Failure will lead to the compromised plaque control, and parts of the margin which have to be such, you thought that it is a subgingival margins in the patient, you have to finish it only onto the die, because in the patient's mouth you are not able to do it. So you have to do it on the die only. These are all the steps of the finishing. First you have to go for the margins, then internal surface, then you have third one is the cut of the sprue. Once you have to cut the screw, you have to use this carbon disc, you have to wheel so that it will be adjusted. Then you have to go for the proximal contacts. After the proximal contacts, you have to go for the occlusal finishing, and then use your disc. So use the axial wall surfaces, and these are the margins. Okay, this is the sequence of your finishing when you are doing in the patient's mouth. Okay. Okay, girls, I will check the girls. This is all about today. We have finished our lectures today. I'll check the girls' name. They're 20.